Good morning, Joe Ito here. So Web3 is the theme today, and I think there are large disparities, those people who don't know what NFT is and people who are doing NFT work. So if you can't follow what I'm saying, there are more sessions that will delve deeper into the topics. And please buy my book, and I'll try to touch upon the core concepts in this talk. So first, let's take a bird's eye view, including Web3. What is starting to change? Well, fundamentally, accounting and the social architecture as a whole is starting to change, and that's what I'd like to discuss here. 7,000 years ago in Mesopotamia, it's a clay tablet, a cuneiform. It's a ledger. So accounting started in this way. 7,000 years ago, with this, you could manage large cities of tens of thousands of people. So it's a centralized city. You can know who owns what, and you can have coordination of agriculture and manufacturing. So with bookkeeping, large cities became viable and possible. And this is 600, 700 years ago. The House of Medici did the double entry. So now you can have credit and debit and capital. And at the same time, from gambling, statistics was developed. And so economy, investment, valuation, all these concepts were created that led to capitalism. And based on capitalism, the scalability of democracy was realized. And think about it, so it's a major technology to coordinate the human society. I think that's how we can position this. So Web3, I think, is something that will follow. So this is Ethereum wallet, my wallet. It's Etherscan, shows my personal ledger. And here, well, anyone can see this. So imagine for a moment. I think you've heard a lot about blockchain. I think the characteristic is that anyone can see anytime. Every transaction that has taken place in the past, everyone can see it, everyone can confirm it, and at any time, you can see and check it. So in this space, there is this ledger that no one can change or rewrite. So in the past, we had clay, and what people owned was transcribed by the mayor. But then it was more distributed later. But there is audit of accounting. Then it led to the blockchain, where everyone can see anytime. And now I think that is the most fundamental, most important technology for Web3. And I think Yat is going to talk about the various characteristics of Web3. And I think the most important points were that in Web 1, you can read any kind of information from anywhere in the world. And the biggest innovation for Web 2 was social media. Anyone can write from their mobile phones or from anything. People could write anywhere in the world. And Web 3, ownership, I think, is important. But I use the word join instead, because big coordination is happening, and the new form of organization, new form of collaboration is being born, and this is the foundation for that. Token is ownership, but it's also rights. If you have a token, you can vote, you can engage in settlement. So it's more about joining. So I think that's the major characteristic of Web3. So going back to blockchain, well, I'd like to talk a little bit about tokens. So in order to create the ledgers, computers are running, and each settlement is sort of being transcribed into stone. And all the pages of the ledger are continuing. And in order to make the consensus, that everyone is seeing, there is this process of mining. So all the computers are solving these cryptography, and so the blockchain becomes immutable, cannot be changed, and you get as a reward a token for the blockchain, and that is now starting to be traded as currency. So Bitcoin is the founding one, and Bitcoin can replace money. So there's not much programmability. So when you talk about the Bitcoin people, they say that it's a feature that you can't do so many things. If you can do so many things, it lowers security. I mean, then people started to say, it'd be more interesting if you could write programs. You want to do a lot of things like smart contracts. So Bitcoin community, they said, no, they don't want that. And so they're driven away. So they created a new blockchain. That was Ethereum. This Ethereum blockchain, unlike Bitcoin, has software languages. You can write program. So now I was critical when it first appeared because it was wild. But now many engineers moved there. You have better security. Now we talk about the NFTs. And this new Ethereum blockchain is very strong in that field. So blockchain community, Web3 community, you hear the term trustless. So even if you don't trust anyone, you can have settlement. You don't need central bank. You don't need national government. You don't need trust. That is the decentralized system. And Ethereum is sort of like a community. So in a podcast, I had the debate of a Bitcoin person and Ethereum person, and Ethereum is now working to create a consensus mechanism that's not harmful to the environment. So if that doesn't work, what happens is what the Bitcoin people say. If that doesn't work, it's going to destroy everything, they say. And the Ethereum people say, well, if it doesn't work, we can discuss it in the community and go back. And you said community. And they were critical. Bitcoin people, they consider the word community as evil. And the virtue is that you don't have to trust anyone. If you have a community, then that's trust. So from Bitcoin perspective, that's impossible. So Ethereum, their assumption is that there is community. So even in the same blockchain, the fundamental assumptions are different between Ethereum and Bitcoin. So from the user perspective, well, like you don't want to trust a banking core system that'll be attacked by hackers. For that, Bitcoin will be useful. But I do DAO, and with my friends, I do a lot of things. And if something doesn't work, I want to go back and redo it. So that's another use case. And there, Ethereum, I think, is more suitable. So if I talk too much about this, Ethereum people might get upset because you can have a trustless operation in Ethereum, but that's not the mainstay, not as main as it is in Bitcoin. So this is like the token that's like money, like you can trade on the net. Now, recently, what's appearing is NFTs. Many of you are familiar, but some may not. So let me explain. NFT is a token, and it's attracting a lot of attention since last year. N is for non-fungible. NF stands for non-fungible. And so what's the difference between non-fungible and fungible? So left-hand side is like Bitcoin, currency, securities. So you can exchange it. It's all the same. So the amount is important. Doesn't matter which one you have. Non-fungible, you can't exchange, like art, like your identity, or in the game, some rare items. So each one is unique. So 10,000 pieces, they're all different, or there's only one. It's something that could be done in Bitcoin, but on the Ethereum smart contract is much better because you can add a lot of functionality. And another important thing is that the NFTs, the way you write the contract is standardized. So if you create a service, and it could be, or if you create an NFT in one service, you can use it in another service. And the real NFT is an open standard, has to be written in public blockchain. So you buy a shirt, and you can take it home, and you can wear it in a department store. If you do it in a private blockchain. If you buy a shirt at Parco, you can only wear it in the Parco department store. So that's like Web 2 platform. If you buy a sticker in Line, you can't use it in Facebook. If it's NFT, you could. And each of the companies don't have to negotiate with each other to make that happen.
In regard to when this was done, last year in March, there was a work by Beeple that was sold for $69 million at Christie's. And for the artist, there will be a percentage of each sale of this work in the future provided to the artist. So it's very advantageous for the artist. And also, it was quite astonishing that a digital artwork would have a price like this. Recently, there's been much excitement about the fact that a collection like this, the Bored Ape collection, which consists of 10,000 items now, and we should check about the details about this, but each has unique characteristics, and it becomes rare, and the value of each is different depending on different characteristics. And it uses the OpenStack blockchain. Here in Japan, this is not yet available, but in the United States, you have something like this, and you can see the NFT in the back. That belongs to a person who has a Twitter account, and it's Bored Ape, and there's the contract address, and you have the name, for example, Joey. So you know that who is the owner. That's very important. And also, in regard to Bored Ape, if you buy it at some market, then you can confirm the details, and you don't have to negotiate with anyone. Everybody can see the information on the blockchain, and it may be on Instagram. It's not necessary to have communication between Instagram and Twitter, and it's not necessary to provide the details. You don't have to negotiate on the individual details, so it's permissionless, and it's possible to use open tools. And people who own Bored Ape can post this on Twitter. It's like a golf club membership. And this has a value of 20 million right now because it's like a golf membership. And various rights are contained in it. And that's the strategy of Bored Ape. And recently they've created a metaverse, and they're carrying out land sales and there were sales of land. And Yatsu's will be the next speaker, and there was technology of his company that was involved in this last year. There was an investment of 350 million made in this area, and in 2021, for the there was about 10 billion that was gathered for Bored Ape, and so there's nearly 100 billion that has been collected in this area. And this is a metaverse project that can compete with Microsoft and so on coming about. And it's open, and the people who are creating this are entrepreneurs. I am a bit concerned that with NFTs, there are services and there may be artists that come about and place JPEG and try to sell this, then it may just be image sales. But if the creators are able to get funding of 100 billion yen like this in a matter of 1 year, then it's a new type of profits for startups. And this is something that Japanese entrepreneurs could participate in. But the important thing is it started with contents before blockchain. At the application layer, such as Facebook and Twitter's strengths, TCP/IP or mail protocols were often used by NPOs and content like newspapers or comics had their profits taken away by the platform. And there was protocols that became strong, and Bitcoin and Ethereum emerged, and the contents became important. But now we see this new businesses start from the content side. And another important thing is this DAO. Ape coins were issued, a DAO was created, and there's the community that discussed this to talk about the Bored Ape future, and they're using ApeCoin for payments, and there's an ApeCoin economy, and above that, there's a community. So I'd like to talk about the subject of DAOs. Decentralized autonomous organizations is what DAO stands for. Incorporated companies are a standard form of organization, but DAOs are a new form of organization. And instead of shareholders' meetings, there are tokens that are used. And instead of having auditing companies audit you, everybody can access the tokens. New formats are now available. And here you have ENS, the Ethereum Domain Name Service Company is what they are about, and they've issued tokens, and the community treasury on the left-hand side, or the tokens that are administrated, and then the rest are issued, and you have contributors, including the founders, and there are people who are assisting on this, and you have this 25% here of airdrop, and half of the tokens are provided to customers here. DAO is often said to be the same as incorporated companies, but there are some differences. First, instead of the fair holdings by shareholders, in DAO, about half of the shareholders are customers. It's like a stock option system where people who worked for IBM left and went to Sun Microsystems, and then this led to the emergence of venture capital. And by going into new ventures, there's a better risk-return ratio. Now, with tokens, if you use a new service as a user, then you get a reward for this. And you may have used ENS, so you received ENS tokens, and there's a very interesting phenomena. And new customers go to new services because they may be profitable. And they'll look at the revenues, the customers' contributions are looked at, and DAOs allow for governance because of the chat rooms, and the customers are able to get involved. And within ENS, the founder may have old tweets that were inappropriate, leading to that person's dismissal. So if you have a decentralized approach, then you see actual cases of how that can disrupt things. Another aspect of DAO is that it's quite easy to make. Here's a DAO for investments. You have a DAO that was created like this, and people are able to invest to get tokens. And after the investment is over, then there's a payout. For DAOs, you could have a DAO for a drinking session, and you could continue that DAO to increase the people and perhaps even buy a club. You could actually do that. Another difference with incorporated companies is that you can't create a company all of a sudden without lawyers or different things, but it's quite easy to come up with DAO, and it's almost free of charge to get the tools to create DAOs. And for the investment fund DAO, that's easy to understand, but let's say that you have a company that hires freelancer workers, and let's say that there's a site that allows for a meetup between the employers and the freelancers. And up until now, there used to be a company that had shareholders, and They may have provided various types of manpower services, but now here, the company that is requesting for the workers and the freelancers are able to directly connect. So you get a more fair commissions issued and more fair regulations are possible. So, whereas you had a company and shareholders, now it's possible to have an arrangement with just the customers involved. There are various tools. For example, for people who are using the podcasts, are taking advantage of Discord, and there's much discussion that is carried out, and there is much issuance of tokens that are being carried out here as well. And using those tokens, it's possible to swap books or a variety of different things. And by having these tokens, you can take advantage of the DAO. And this is a project management tool. And in regard to what needs to be done, you can look at the tokens issued. And with the Discord, various rights and various NFTs can be used, and various types of systems can be integrated. And this is a company that was just established 4 months ago, and yet there's 7,000 users already. And it's used for various different ways. And they can take advantage of Discord free of charge, and various tools, various ways. It is used free of charge, and if you want to make a decision, then people who have the tokens are able to vote. And this is like a shareholders meeting with governance. These tools are almost free of charge completely, and it's possible to copy one person's server. And so the design work can be looked at through the blockchain. And so, if someone wants to come up with the same DAO, it's possible to do that in a matter of 5 minutes. Of course, you have to learn how to use it, but it's quite an easy tool to use. And tools are increasing. Various projects are created and people are participating in them. So it's completely different from incorporated companies. As an idea, I'd like to talk about the fact that Bitcoin or tokens tended to be associated with money. And this also relates to money, but there's often talk about carbon tokens. And there's talk about the fact that Web3 is bad for the environment because of the computer energy that is necessary for Bitcoin and so on. There's a lot of energy that is being consumed in this area. And Ethereum will probably drop down to 1/1000th of what it is now. But the idea is that here, carbon tokens could be issued and a market could be created and a DAO could be established for this. And I'm thinking about talking about this later on. But this is something of social value, and it may have benefits for the environment. So, as the economy is deteriorating, it's not just people pursuing money, but also people who are looking at social significance that may be interested in this. At any rate, thank you very much.